Okay, friends, thoughts for this week on the theme. So our reading for the week is from Mary Oliver. Instructions for a Life. It's either called that or Instructions for Living, whichever. Number 1, pay attention. 2, be astonished. 3, tell about it. So I've been thinking about these lines for, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks now. Just floating through my head, floating through my heart. And usually when I've got my attention, I'm putting my attention on something like that, it's almost like the deeper wisdom starts to reveal itself. In any given situation. And sometimes it surprises me the way it pops up. I don't know if any of you saw that documentary that Jonah Hill made called Stutz. It might be on Netflix, I don't know, but I thought it was phenomenal. So good. He's interviewing his therapist, and this guy's been the therapist for many, I think he's out in California, and very well known, and has worked with a lot of, I want to say, high profile people, whatever that even means, but it's kind of like a therapist for the stars. This language, whatever. Regardless, the documentary was great. Anyway, something that Stutz, this therapist, did was he drew these little images just using black ink on white cards. And I thought it was so cool because he's trying to explain some of these complex ideas, but he's just breaking them down into these simple little images. And to me, well, that's how I hope to filter down information, because sometimes I think that there's these really complex ideas that I'll play with, and I'm like, I don't understand it yet because it's not simple. It's not in a little image. It's not simplified yet, so I don't understand it that well. I feel like the more simplified you can get it, the more that you can understand it. And in my experience, the soul, our essential beingness or truth, is simple. The soul is simple. Humanity complicates things, but the soul is simple. Anyhow, this is what I've been thinking about. Look at this first little card. Now just pay attention to the circles. I've showed this before. So look at the circles. So the P is in the middle. That's for physical. Above that, E for emotional. Above that, M for mental. Above that, SM, supramental. Supra meaning above or beyond. Supramental. And then that fifth outer ring is representative of the bliss or the unified body. So these are all of our bodies. In yoga, they talk about the koshas. There's the Annamaya kosha, the meat body, the body that's made, or the body that's made of food, and the Pranamaya kosha, the body that's made of energy or emotion, energy in motion. Then the Manomaya kosha, or the mind, our mind body. The Vijnanamaya kosha, which is that sort of the higher, they'll refer to it in yoga as like the higher mind or the special mind. Some have referred to it as the God mind. It's a big, scary word for a lot of people. I'm always like, saying the G word. And then the Anandamaya kosha, the sheath or the body that's just like our physical body, but these are almost like these concentric rings. Just like this, these concentric rings that are representative of us, the layers of us, But isn't it interesting that that physical body is the smallest, and then we start getting larger and larger and larger. So this really representing us, our being, how the physical body that we have, the physical reality that we're existing in, is like the smallest aspect of who we are. The greater percentage of what and who we are these larger rings, like this bliss body, or this unified body, the biggest circle in that image that I just showed you. That is most of who we are. That's the greater reality. Take a look at this again. And there's this little downward arrow. See the little arrow in the middle? So these outer rings affect the ring inside of it, affect the ring inside of it, affect the ring inside of it. Everything's moving downward. It's called downward causation in quantum physics. I've talked about this before. But in terms of this poem, look at the M, the mental body, or the monomaya kosha. It's like the smaller mind. It's, okay, the smaller mind, as opposed to the larger special mind that we tap into when we're in states of flow or meditation. So the M, pay attention. To what are we paying attention? Like, I'm paying attention right now to what I'm doing. I'm making this video. So that is requiring some mental focus on my part to what I'm doing. I'm paying attention. Now go down a notch to the E. Be astonished. Pay attention. It's like an action, to do something. The verb pay. To pay attention. Now be, also a verb, but more of a passive verb. Like to exist. Human beings. And then look down at that middle ring, the physical. Tell about it. I'm thinking of Mary Oliver writing those lines, and how she would sit in nature for hours and pay attention to the grasshopper. She would pay attention to the ocean, to the various flowers she wrote about, the various animals that she wrote about. That was the action she was taking, was paying attention. And there's so many different directions I always want to go in. But she was a real poet of joy. You can, I mean, of all of the emotions. But she had this special quality of being in this state of wonder or reverence or awe or surprise, curiosity, astonishment. And I'm like, God, she's so tuned in, she's so connected that she's just automatically like following these natural laws, like downward causation. Everything moves in this direction. See, look at that. The M on top of the E on top of the P. You have a mental thought, okay? Mental thought. Whatever you're thinking about creates an emotional feeling, which then in turn shows up in some physical sensation in your body. But in terms of her poem, it's like just her act, just her being so tuned in. And I think it had a lot to do with her paying attention. Her constant attentiveness to the now. She was paying attention to nature, which was moving. Nature is pure positive energy. And nature moves at a certain pace, this natural pace. It's not the pace of culture. God, I was driving around on the highways yesterday and I was like, this is nuts. I had to go get my kitty some medicine, and I was on several highways and I'm like, this is crazy. People are honking, we're making U-turns, we're just coming from all directions, and I'm like, this is a lot. This is not a natural pace. The pace of nature, I'm looking out my favorite window right now, and the trees are chilling. The bugs and the birds and the breeze are moving at a slower pace. And Mary Oliver was tuned into that natural pace. And I've been so really astonished by how all of the work I did for so many years in poetry, how it is now syncing up as if perfectly, as if by some intelligent design. It's linking up perfectly with all of these studies that I'm doing that are based in quantum physics. And quantum physics is just it's the study of who we are, of what's going on in our reality on the very smallest level. It's going smaller than the atom, into the subatomic. It's like the rules change on that level. But hello, we're made of atoms, which are comprised of the protons and the electrons and the neutrons, and then it gets down to the even smaller in the subatomic. And some people talk about quarks and strings and dark matter and dark energy. Whatever words we put on these things, we're just getting into the smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, but we're talking about us. This is our nature, and we're just studying how it works. And we're just discovering more truth about ourselves the smaller we get. And those 3 lines that Mary Oliver wrote, to me, are perfectly aligned with this quantum physics principle of downward causation. The M. Pay attention, like with your mental energy, pay attention to something. And it matters what you're paying attention to. If you're paying attention to something horrible, you know, whatever you want to deem horrible, because, you know, that's just dualistic thinking. Good, bad, right, wrong, horrible, wonderful. But for argument's sake, you're paying attention to something that's very violent. People are being harmed, and that's going to have an effect on your emotional state and then your physical state. Mary Oliver, however, was paying attention to the natural world and to the natural pace of things. Nature moves at nature's pace, at a natural pace. Nature is pure positive energy. So she was automatically like connected to this truth. So pay attention. Go down to the E, the emotional body. Be a being state. Be astonished. If you're paying attention to the truth, let's say nature as pure positive energy just exists in truth. Pay attention to that. You're automatically like in line with truth. Be astonished. Take a look at this card. So this is a list of some of the lower emotions, or survival emotions, and then go up on this list to elevated emotions. Let me see, where are we up here? There's gratitude in some of the elevated emotions. Gratitude, appreciation, joy, love. What in the world does that one say? I can't see it because it's backwards to me. Freedom, and then bliss. We'll put astonishment somewhere up here because this isn't the comprehensive list here, but it would be among the elevated emotions. So if she's paying attention to something that is elevated in truth, like nature, pure positive energy, she's going to align with its energy and cultivate that emotional state of astonishment. And then she tells about it. She writes about it. I don't know if you know who Bashar is. There's this guy. His name is Daryl Anka, and he has been channeling. You know, I don't know how you feel about that word. You know, it's a little out there, but I like that. I like esoteric, mysterious things, and being discerning about them, because there's a lot out there that is false. So I'm as discerning as I can possibly be. These have been my studies for a really long time. Anyhow, he's gotten pretty popular on the internet over the years, kind of like Abraham Hicks, if you're also familiar with Esther Hicks, who channels that higher information from that plural body of teachers that she calls Abraham Hicks. She gave him her last name. Anyway, Bashar says, life is really simple. You find what you are most excited about in the moment, what you are most passionate about in the moment. And you follow that thing as absolutely as far to the end of it as you possibly can, until you're done with it, until you can go no further with it. Because I'm always curious about, like, why am I here? Why am I on this planet? This is just, you know, it's just the way my mind, my heart, my spirit all works. Like, what are we really doing here? I need some of the bigger answers. And there are these well-known philosophers, many of whom will put it in a similar language, and they'll say the point of being on earth is to bring heaven to earth. Now that's kind of like biblical language, but you can also call heaven, if that's an elevated place. Like if you said, oh my God, I feel like I'm in heaven right now. I mean, you'd be in an elevated space. So you could talk about heaven as being these elevated emotions, and these are more of the earthly emotions, the lower vibrating sort of survival emotions. And so considering what Bashar is saying about pay attention and do what brings you the most joy or interest or passion in the moment, and follow it all the way that you can. Mary Oliver, pay attention to that. For her, it was nature, it was the natural world. And my thinking is, if it is something that really lights you up, it's a great interest to you, you are nature. Your truth is elevated. If you are really passionate about something, you love something, and you are paying attention to it, you are paying attention to something elevated, something that is of truth. Pay attention to that long enough with your attention. You're going to encourage this elevated emotional state of something akin to astonishment, surprise, wonder, like you're dumbstruck with something. And then the final instruction for life is to tell about it. Mary Oliver wrote it down. Somebody like Bashar is channeling. He's sitting in front of audiences all over the world with a microphone in front of his face, speaking about it. Some people write books, some people play music. And then I was also thinking about these social media channels that everybody has. It's a channel. It's a way to put this information out there, to bring heaven, what you're paying attention to, which is encouraging the elevated state, and then you're telling about it. You're bringing heaven to earth, like you are sitting in your purpose. You know, I often wonder if what I say makes sense. And a lot of the times I'm just, you know, I'm playing with ideas. I have a curious mind. I want to figure things out. Like, I don't think we're going to figure out the mystery, but it's fun to make connections and get to a greater truth. So I'm hoping that this makes sense. This is my thinking about the poem for this week. Oh, I've got one more little story for you. Let me see. I might share it in one more video because this one's already 20 minutes. I can talk. Do you see why I'm making these videos? I would just, any and all of you sitting in my yoga classes would be like, shut up. I came here for a moment of peace. So I try to give you as much peace as possible in that space. But if you're curious about more, that's why I'm putting it on these videos and on my blog and newsletter and wherever, these channels. This is how I'm trying to bring this stuff to earth. I'm paying attention to the things that I love. You know, obviously that brings me an elevated energy. It's like I can do these things. You should see me on a computer when I'm doing something I really don't want to do, and I'm paying attention to something I don't understand. I don't care about it. I'm not interested. I literally don't have the energy to do it. I'm like, F this, and I'm done. I shut the computer, I walk away. Because I'm paying attention to something that is just, it's not resonant with my truth. So I'm not being astonished. I'm being annoyed as shit. And then, and I'm glad I'm not telling about it. I mean, I might be kind of right now, sort of. No, because I'm not making this video about that. So that wouldn't be me bringing heaven to earth. I'm paying attention to that which lights me up, something that resonates with my truth, being in the elevated emotional state, and then putting it out there into the world. It's just crazy to me. Poetry, quantum physics, same thing. One's in a feminine language, one's in a masculine language. They come together in like this arrow, where it's like pointing us to this greater truth of like, this is why you're here. This is how you'll live in the flow. This is how you'll live a satisfying life. This is how you'll be in your purpose of bringing heaven to earth, of bringing these, living in and bringing these elevated emotions of bliss, freedom, love, joy, appreciation, gratitude, etc. to earth. Because if we really are, as some people think, spiritual beings having a human experience, we really are, the larger part of us are these blissful bodies, these blissful beings. Yet we're having this temporary experience on the earth plane. And God, what a challenge, because this is like, these are some of the lower energies on the planet. The pain, the victimization, the suffering, the shame, the guilt, the fear, the anger, the control. Like, what a challenge to reach those elevated emotions while we're living inside of this density, these survival emotions, to lift ourselves. God, it's like lifting yourself up out of the mud that kind of just sucks you down like quicksand. It just like sucks you down. So it requires some effort, but I mean, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're making that effort to lift up out of that mud, contact these elevated emotions, and bring them like to the mud, to the density. Anyway, Deep Thoughts with EK. That's your episode for today. More later. See ya.